Commander Zixthala's four eyes narrowed as she observed the latest batch of human prisoners through the reinforced viewing portal. The spherical zero-gravity combat arena stretched before them, 100 meters of empty space designed to break the spirit of any species foolish enough to challenge the hegemony's authority. Initiating punishment protocol, her aide, Officer Kliktar, announced with satisfaction. These humans will learn the futility of resistance. The arena had been perfected over centuries of use against rebellious species. No gravity meant no orientation, no purchase, no way to fight effectively. Most aliens would float helplessly, succumbing to nausea and despair within hours. The few who tried to resist would exhaust themselves flailing uselessly in the void. But as Zixathala watched, something unprecedented began to unfold. The 12 humans, captured resistance fighters from the outer colonies, were indeed floating aimlessly at first. But instead of panic or despair, she heard something that made her mandibles click in confusion. Laughter. "Did you see that spin?" "Martinez?" called out a woman with short-cropped gray hair, apparently their leader. She had just pushed off from the smooth arena wall with her fingertips, sending herself into a graceful rotation. "Not bad, Captain Chen," replied a younger man, "but watch this." He tucked into a tight ball and began spinning faster, using minute adjustments of his limbs to control his trajectory. Within minutes, the humans had figured out the basics of zero-gravity movement. They pushed off walls, used their clothing to create air resistance for steering, and began moving with increasing confidence through the three-dimensional space. "Sir," Kliktar's voice carried a note of uncertainty. "They appeared to be enjoying themselves?" Indeed, the humans had begun what could only be described as playing. They formed chains by linking hands and whipped each other across the arena. They played an improvised game of tag that utilized all dimensions of the sphere. One of them, a massive man with cybernetic arms, discovered he could create handholds by pressing his fingertips into tiny imperfections in the wall, allowing him to climb along any surface. "Incredible," whispered Dr. Tethmara, the hegemony's chief xenobiologist who had arrived to observe the punishment. "Their inner ear structures must be remarkably adaptable. Most species experience severe disorientation in zero gravity." But it was more than just adaptation. The humans were innovating at an alarming rate. Captain Chen had organized her team into what appeared to be a complex aerial ballet. They moved in formations, passing tools and equipment between them with precision that defied their supposed helplessness. When they needed to move large objects, they worked together, using their bodies as anchor points and levers. "Look at this," Martinez called out, having fashioned a crude slingshot from his belt and shirt. He launched a small piece of debris across the arena with startling accuracy. "We could turn this into a weapon system." The cyborg, who'd introduced himself as Tank, had discovered that by positioning himself at the center of the sphere and pushing off multiple humans in sequence, he could build up tremendous momentum. "I'm like a pinball," he laughed as he ricocheted between walls. By the end of the first day, Zixathala was seriously concerned. These weren't broken prisoners. They were having the time of their lives. On day 2, the humans had established territories, created games with complex rules, and begun using their clothing and equipment to build structures. They'd fashioned handholds, sleeping areas, and even a makeshift waste management system that utilized the arena's air circulation. "They've created a three-dimensional civilization," Dr. Tethmara observed with something approaching awe. "In less than 48 hours. Captain Chen floated near the observation window, somehow having detected the hidden cameras. "You know," she said conversationally to her team, but clearly intending to be overheard, "back on Earth, people pay thousands of credits for zero-G experiences like this. We used to have whole sports leagues in orbital stations." "Sports leagues?" Tank asked while casually doing what appeared to be zero-gravity calisthenics. "Oh yeah. Zero-G handball, 3D racing, orbital combat sports. Some of the best athletes in human space trained in environments just like this." She smiled directly at the camera. "Though I have to say, this arena's got better dimensions than most commercial facilities." Martinez had been working on something, in the corner, a complex structure made from their clothing and equipment. "Captain, I think I've figured out how to create artificial gravity in sections. If we set up a rotation system here." "Fascinating," Chen replied, drifting over to examine his work. "Though personally I'm enjoying the zero-G. Reminds me of my academy days in the orbital training stations." Officer Klicktar looked to his commander with growing panic. "Sir, should we release them?" "Release them?" Zixthala's voice was hollow. "They don't want to be released, they're having fun." On day 3, the humans had organized racing competitions, invented new games, and begun what appeared to be construction projects. They'd figured out how to manipulate the arena's environmental controls and had optimized everything from air, circulation to lighting. Dr. Tethamara was furiously taking notes. They've adapted completely, not just survived, thrived. Their problem-solving abilities in three-dimensional space are beyond anything we've encountered. Captain Chen, now sporting what could only be described as a zero-G tan from the arena's lighting systems, addressed her team with obvious satisfaction. "All right, people, I think we've learned everything we can from this particular training environment. Tank, have you finished mapping the structural weak points?" "Affirmative, Captain. I could breach the outer wall in 6 different locations, with the materials we have available." "Excellent. Martinez, status on the communication array you've been building?" "Ready to broadcast on all hegemony frequencies, Captain. 1 word from you and every ship in the system will know our location." Chen smiled. "Then I believe our vacation is over, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to get back to work." Commander Zixthala stared in horror as she realized the truth. The humans hadn't been trapped in the arena. They'd been conducting reconnaissance. They'd studied the facility, mapped its weaknesses, built communication devices, and somehow managed to treat the entire experience as both recreation and military intelligence gathering. The arena doors hadn't been locked to keep them in. They'd chosen to stay because they were having too much fun to leave. As alarms began blaring throughout the facility, Zixthala finally understood why the hegemony's war against humanity was going so poorly. Any species that could turn a punishment into a playground was truly terrifying to contemplate as an enemy. The humans were already gone by the time security arrived, but they'd left behind something that would haunt Zixthala's nightmares. A 5-star review of the facility, written on the arena wall, along with suggestions for improvement, and a request for return visits. Humans, she realized, were absolutely insane, and that made them unbeatable.